The room is silent. It's 6:30 a.m. The only light comes from the cold blue luminescence of 3 monitors. You are sitting there, coffee in hand, vibrating with a mixture of hope and terror. You tell yourself you are hunting alpha. You tell yourself you are analyzing market structure. But if we were to hook your brain up to an fMRI machine right now, we wouldn't see a predator stalking its prey. We would see an addict looking for a fix. Welcome to the deep end. Most of you have been sold a lie. The grind, the hustle. You've been told that trading is a sport where effort equals reward. That if you just stare at the charts longer, if you just draw more support lines, if you just consume more news, you will force the market to pay you. This is the illusion of action, and it is the single greatest destroyer of capital in the retail trading space. Let's talk about the energy tax. Imagine your brain's executive function, the part of you responsible for discipline, risk management, and logic, is a bank account. Every morning, you wake up with a fixed amount of currency. Let's call it cognitive capital. Every time you make a decision, you pay a tax. Should I wear the blue shirt or the gray one? Should I drink coffee or tea? Is the pre-market up or down? Tax. This is biological reality. Your prefrontal cortex burns glucose at an alarming rate when it is forced to filter noise. By the time most of you sit down at your desk, you have already spent 40% of your cognitive capital on irrelevance. You are entering a gunfight with an empty magazine. Let's look at a specimen. Let's call him David. David is smart. He understands technical analysis. He knows what a Fibonacci retracement is. But David is bleeding money. David is addicted to the illusion of action. David wakes up at 5:45 a.m. The first thing he does, before his feet even touch the floor, is reach for his phone. The screen blasts blue light into his unadjusted retinas. He opens Twitter. He scrolls. He sees a bear market thesis from a guru with an anime avatar. Cortisol spike. He scrolls further. He sees a bull market thesis from a hedge fund manager. Confusion. He opens Discord. He argues with a stranger about the CPI data. By 6:15 a.m., David hasn't even looked at a chart, but his brain is already running a marathon. He is paying the energy tax with every scroll, every refresh, every emotional reaction to information that he cannot control and likely cannot use. He sits at his desk. He opens his trading platform. He checks his P&L from yesterday. It's red. He feels a pang of shame. Tax. He vows to make it back today. Pulls up 4 different time frames. He adds 3 indicators. The chart looks like a Jackson Pollock painting. The market bell rings at 9:30 a.m. David's pulse is 110. His cognitive capital is depleted. He is operating on fumes. He sees a green candle. It's a low-quality setup. It doesn't meet his criteria. A fresh, well-rested mind would see it for what it is. David is exhausted. His brain wants a release. It wants the dopamine hit of participation. He clicks buy. The stock immediately reverses. Now the chemistry changes. This isn't just about money anymore. This is about survival. His amygdala hijacks the controls. The flight or fight response kicks in. He moves his stop loss. Just give it room to breathe. He isn't trading the market. He is trading his own exhaustion. This is what you fail to understand. The market does not care how hard you work. It does not care about your sleepless nights. In fact, the market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient, from the exhausted to the rested. The professional trader views the market through a completely different lens. They understand that the brain is a battery, not a generator. Not a generator. When you look at a professional's desk, you won't see flashing lights or CNBC blaring in the background. You won't see a Discord chat scrolling at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You will see the laboratory. A laboratory is sterile. It is boring. It is controlled. When a scientist walks into a lab, they don't start throwing chemicals into beakers to see what happens. They don't run around sweating and screaming. The hustle. They carefully set up the parameters of an experiment, and if the conditions for the experiment are not met, they do nothing. Doing nothing is the hardest skill you will ever learn. It is biologically counterintuitive. We are evolved to hunt, to gather, to build, to run. When we sit still, our primitive brain screams that we are wasting time, that we are vulnerable. But in trading, doing nothing is an active state of preserving capital, both financial and psychological. Every time you look at a chart when there is no setup, you are paying the energy tax. You are leaking discipline. You are fracturing the structural integrity of your mind. Think about the sheer arrogance of the active trader. You believe that by refreshing your P&L every 30 seconds, you can somehow influence the outcome of the trade. That is magical thinking. That is a rain dance. When you are in a trade, checking the P&L serves only one purpose: to spike your dopamine or your cortisol. If the number is green, you get a hit of euphoria. You become overconfident. You might sell too early to bank the high. If the number is red, you feel pain. You might panic and sell. Or worse, freeze and hold a loser. The energy tax accumulates. By 11 a.m., after 2 hours of hyperfixation, staring at the ticker tape like it's a hypnotic pendulum, your decision-making ability has degraded to that of a drunkard. This is usually when the fat finger happens. This is when the rules go out the window. This is when the account blows up. You must understand that your capacity to make high-quality decisions is a finite resource. It is scarce. You must hoard it like gold. If you are serious about this, and I mean genuinely serious, not just looking for a casino where you can feel important, you have to stop acting. You have to stop grinding. You have to stop paying the tax on things that do not pay you back. This requires a complete architectural teardown of how you view your morning. You need to close the leaks. The amateur wakes up and asks, "How can I make money today?" The professional wakes up and asks, "How can I protect my energy today?" Because the money is just a byproduct of the energy. If the energy is corrupt, the money will vanish. If the mind is clouded with the smoke of 1,000 useless decisions made before breakfast, you will not see the setup. Or you will see a setup that isn't there. You are building a house on a foundation of sand. You are trying to perform neurosurgery while running on a treadmill, and you wonder why the patient keeps dying on the table. The illusion of action tells you that you are working. The reality of mathematics tells you that you are churning. You need to step out of the chaos. You need to enter the laboratory. But you cannot enter the laboratory if your biological boot sequence is corrupted. You cannot be a sterile observer of variance if your own chemistry is screaming for a hit. We have to fix the machine before we can fix the trading. And the machine is you. You are operating a piece of hardware that is 200,000 years old. It was designed to spot predators in the tall grass, not to interpret moving averages on a liquid crystal display. Most of you treat your body like a rental car. You pour caffeine into it to make it go fast, you pour alcohol into it to make it slow down, and you sleep in erratic bursts. Then, you sit down at the most competitive financial arena in human history and expect to win. That's absurd. You are looking for an edge. You buy indicators. You join signal groups. You scour the dark corners of the internet for the Japanese secret to candlestick patterns. I will tell you the real Japanese secret. It has nothing to do with charts. It has to do with biology. It is the concept of biological synchronization. In high-frequency trading, firms spend millions of dollars to shave millions of dollars to shave milliseconds off their latency. They hollow out mountains to run fiber optic cables in a straighter line. Because speed and clarity of signal are the only things that matter. Your brain is your fiber optic cable. If you wake up and immediately blast your system with blue light, artificial stress, and sugar, you are introducing latency into your nervous system. You are trading with a lag. Let's talk about the boot sequence. When a computer starts up, it runs a BIOS check. It verifies the integrity of the memory, the cooling systems, the power supply. Only when all systems are green does it load the operating system. David, our losing trader from part 1, does not have a boot sequence. He wakes up and immediately loads the heavy software, the markets, the P&L, the news. His hardware isn't ready. His cortisol is spiking at the wrong time. His adenosine hasn't cleared. He is trying to run crisis on a pocket calculator. To be a systematic architect, you must respect the chemistry. Step 1. The optical calibration. When you wake up, your pineal gland is waiting for a signal. It is waiting for the frequency of light that exists only at solar dawn. When that specific spectrum of light hits the bottom of your retina, it triggers a chemical cascade. It tells your brain the hunt has begun. If you miss this signal, if you wake up in a dark room and stare at a phone screen, you are sending a false signal. You are telling your brain it is noon, but your body knows it is morning. You create a circadian mismatch. This mismatch creates a background hum of anxiety. You feel off. You feel foggy. You try to fix it with a double espresso. Now you are just anxious and vibrating. You have introduced noise into the signal before you have even placed a trade. The professional trader steps outside. They view the sky. Not for poetry, but for calibration. They are setting the internal clock so that when the bell rings at 9:30, their peak cognitive alertness aligns perfectly with the market's peak volatility. Step 2. The temperature shock. Comfort is a sedative. A warm bed, a warm room, a warm robe. This signals safety. It signals rest and digest. You cannot trade from a state of safety. You need a state of alert stillness. Cold water. It is the oldest biohack in existence. Tichr's norepinephrine. This is the neurotransmitter of focus. It clears the brain fog residue of sleep instantly. It is not pleasant. It is not supposed to be. It is a system check. It verifies that the pilot is in control of the vessel. If you cannot discipline yourself to stand under cold water for 2 minutes, do not tell me you have the discipline to hold a winning trade through a pullback. If you cannot master your own shivering, you cannot master the market. Step 3. The fast. Digestion is expensive. It requires massive amounts of blood flow and energy. When you eat a heavy breakfast, bagels, sugar, processed carbohydrates, you are diverting resources from your brain to your gut. You enter a food coma. Your decision-making speed slows down. Your aggression is blunted. The predator hunts on an empty stomach. The hunger provides clarity. It provides a sharp edge to your focus. The Japanese secret isn't a candlestick pattern. It is the discipline to treat your biology with the same reverence that a samurai treats his sword. You polish it. You do not let it rust. Now, look at your current routine. Dopamine hit. You drink sugary coffee. Insulin spike. You sit in a slump. Posture collapse. You open the charts. Cognitive overload. You are a biological disaster. You are a chaotic system trying to predict a chaotic system. The result can only be variance. The energy tax we spoke of in part 1 is doubled here. Because your biology is fighting you. Every decision costs twice as much. You tire faster. By 10:30 a.m. you are mentally obese, slow, sluggish, and easily baited. You must view the time between waking up and the market open as the priming phase. During this phase, no market data enters the system. None. You are building the firewall. You are charging the battery. Silence. Light. Temperature. Movement. These are the inputs. When you finally sit down at the laboratory, your desk, you are not a groggy human hoping to get lucky. You are a calibrated instrument. You are cold. You are hungry. You are awake. You are dangerous. This is the only edge that cannot be arbitraged away by an algorithm. An algorithm does not have intuition. It does not have the subtle pattern recognition of a human brain operating at peak efficiency. But a human brain operating at 50% efficiency. That is lunch for the algo. You think you can outsmart a Goldman Sachs supercomputer while you are hungover and eating a donut? Please. You need to understand that the chart is a mirror. It reflects your internal state. If you are chaotic, your trading will be chaotic. If you are disciplined, your trading will be disciplined. You cannot fix the trading by looking at the chart. You fix the trading by fixing the trader. You must earn the right to sit at the desk. The desk is not a lounge. It is the cockpit of a fighter jet. You do not climb into the cockpit in your pajamas. You go through the pre-flight checklist. If the pilot is not ready, the plane does not fly. So, tomorrow morning you have a choice. You can hit snooze. You can scroll through Instagram. You can preserve your little comforts. Or you can initiate the boot sequence. You can choose to be a professional. But be warned, once the machine is running, once the clarity hits you, you will see things you didn't want to see. That's with Papal Degree. You will see how sloppy you have been. You will see how many lies you have told yourself. And that brings us to the pain, because once you are awake, you have to look at the shell you've been living in. And to grow, that shell has to break. Let's talk about the money you lost. Not the money you lost because of bad luck. Not the money you lost because the market was rigged. I'm talking about the money you lost because you were stupid. Because you were arrogant. Because you refused to follow your own rules. That pain you feel in your gut when you look at your P&L, that specific, nausea-inducing mixture of shame and panic, that is the most valuable asset you own. Most of you spend your entire trading career trying to avoid that pain. You hedge. You move stop losses to break even too early. You claim you are long-term investors when a trade goes south. You build elaborate psychological defenses to protect your ego. You are trying to patch a shell that is too small for you. Visualize a lobster. A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside a rigid shell. That shell is its protection. It is its identity. It is the ego. But the lobster grows. The shell does not. Eventually, the lobster gets too big for the shell. It becomes tight. It becomes suffocating. The lobster feels immense pressure. It is uncomfortable. It is in pain. Now the lobster has a choice. It can stay in the shell, stop growing, and slowly die of suffocation. Or it can do something incredibly dangerous. It can molt. It casts off the old shell. It leaves itself completely naked, soft, vulnerable. For a period of time, it has no defense. A predator could eat it in a second. The ocean current could smash it against a rock. But this vulnerability is the only way to grow a new, larger, stronger shell. David, our trader, is suffocating. He is stuck in the beginner's luck shell. He had a few winning months early on. He thinks he is a genius. But the market has changed, and his strategies are failing. He is bleeding capital. But David refuses to molt. High tries to tape the cracks. He buys a new course. He switches from crypto to Forex. He blames his broker. He blames the market makers. He is frantically trying to reinforce the brittle shell of his early success because he is terrified of being naked. He is terrified of admitting, I don't know what I'm doing. To become a professional, you must actively seek the molting process. You must look at your trading journal, the graveyard of your failures, and you must admit that the person who made those trades is not capable of making the money you want to make. That version of you must die. This is the valley of despair. In every trader's journey, there is a moment where the initial excitement, the illusion of action, wears off, and the reality of the difficulty sets in. This is where the shell cracks. The amateur feels this pain and interprets it as a signal to quit. Trading isn't for me, they say. It's too hard. The professional feels this pain and interprets it as a signal to molt. They stop trading. They go cash. They retreat under a rock. They strip away the leverage. They strip away the indicators. They strip away the Discord groups. They sit in the silence of their own incompetence. This is the most dangerous phase. You are intellectually naked. You are looking at the raw mathematics of your expectancy, and the numbers are ugly. You realize you are not a shark. You are exit liquidity. It hurts. It's supposed to hurt. If it didn't hurt, you wouldn't change. Pain is the only teacher that commands your absolute attention. When you touch a hot stove, you don't need a textbook to tell you to pull your hand away. The biology handles it. The market uses financial pain to teach you about risk. If you numb that pain with delusion or by depositing more money from your savings account to hide the loss, you are severing the nerve endings. You are turning yourself into a leper, unable to feel the damage until your limbs fall off. You must let the shell break. You must accept that your edge was actually just beta, a rising tide lifting all boats. You must accept that your discipline was just luck. When you finally shed that old skin, you are left with nothing but the truth. And the truth is usually simple. You trade too big. You trade too often. You have no system. Now, you can begin the reconstruction. The new shell you grow will not be made of ego. It will be made of data. It will be made of scars. This is what we call psychological callus. A callus is not dead skin. It is reinforced skin. It is skin that has been subjected to friction and has adapted to handle the load. A veteran trader doesn't lack emotions. They have just grown a shell thick enough to contain them. When a veteran takes a loss, they don't feel shame. They feel a data point. They say, the market regime has shifted. My variance is increased. I must adjust my position sizing. No drama. No screaming at the screen. No cracked monitors. Just a biological adaptation to the environment. David is still out there, trying to glue his old shell back to his doubling down on losers because his ego cannot accept that he was wrong. He is turning a $500 loss into a $5,000 catastrophe because he is protecting his identity, not his capital. Don't be David. Go into the dark. Look at your losses. Stare at them until they stop hurting and start making sense. Admit you are a novice. Admit you are gambling. Only then can you start to build this structure. This new shell, the one built after the moat, is heavy. It is not flashy. It is not designed for speed. It is designed for structural integrity. It is designed to withstand the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. But here is the irony. Once you grow this new shell, once you stop caring about looking smart and start caring about surviving, the trading becomes incredibly boring. The adrenaline is gone. The dopamine hits are gone. The fun is gone. You are no longer a gambler at the roulette table. You are the casino manager watching the security cameras. And that brings us to the most dangerous enemy of the profitable trader. Not volatility, not the Fed. Most of you will survive the pain. Very few of you will survive the boredom. Because once the shell is thick and the emotions are contained, you are left with the silence of the laboratory. And in that silence, the mind starts to invent problems just to feel something. Welcome to the mathematics of boredom. If you are having fun, you are losing money. That is the golden rule of speculation. If you feel excitement, if you feel the rush of adrenaline, if you are high-fiving your reflection in the monitor, you are not trading. You are paying for entertainment. And the market charges the most expensive admission fee on earth. Pop culture has destroyed your perception of this profession. You watch movies where men in suspenders scream into telephones, smashing keyboards, snorting powder, and making millions in seconds. That is not trading. That is sales. Real trading, profitable, sustainable, institutional-grade trading, looks like a man watching paint dry. It looks like a radiologist staring at a gray X-ray for 6 hours, waiting for a single tiny anomaly. Welcome to the mathematics of boredom. Once you have molted, once you have shed the ego and accepted the pain, you enter the grind, but not the hustle culture grind. I mean the mechanical grind of a factory assembly line. You must view your trading desk as a manufacturing plant. Your job is not to be a cowboy. Your job is to be a bricklayer. You are laying one brick, then another. Then another. It is repetitive. It is monotonous. It is completely devoid of glamour. And this is where the biological conflict returns. Your brain is wired for novelty. It craves new data. It craves the hunt. When you sit there for 3 hours and the market is chopping sideways in a tight range, your brain begins to starve. It screams for stimulation. It starts whispering to you. Maybe that's a breakout. Maybe we should scalp the range. Maybe we should look at a different asset class. This is the siren song of variance. David, our tragic hero, has survived the molting phase. He has a system now. He has risk management rules. He has a plan. He sits down Monday morning. Nothing happens. The market is flat. Tuesday, nothing happens. No setup fits his criteria. Wednesday, still nothing. David is bored out of his mind. He feels useless. The illusion of action creeps back in. He feels like he should be making money. So, on Wednesday afternoon, he sees a mediocre setup. It's a C-grade trade. It's not in his playbook. But he takes it. Not because he wants the profit, but because he wants to feel something. He wants to end the silence. Of course he loses. He didn't lose because of the market. He lost because he couldn't handle the boredom. He sacrificed his edge for a hit of dopamine. You need to understand the mathematics of edge. An edge is not a magic wand. It is a slight statistical advantage. It means that over a series of 1,000 trades, you will win slightly more often, or slightly bigger, than you lose. Over a series of 1,000 trades. Do you know how long it takes to execute 1,000 high-quality trades? Maybe years. You are living in a probability distribution. A bell curve. You are surfing the Gaussian distribution. Most days will be noise. Most price action is random walk. Your edge only exists in specific rare conditions. If you force the trade when the conditions are not present, you are trading with a negative expectancy. You are the gambler at the roulette table betting on green. The house edge will grind you down to zero. It is a mathematical certainty. The professional trader is the house. The house does not get excited when a gambler loses. The house does not get angry when a gambler wins. The house simply keeps the wheels spinning, knowing that over time, the laws of probability will transfer the wealth from the players to the vault. The house is boring. The house is inevitable. You must fall in love with small wins. The amateur wants the home run. They want the 100x leverage trade that retires them in a week. They are trying to compress a decade of compounding into a single afternoon. It's suicide. Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world, but it has a terrible flaw. It is invisible in the beginning. If you grow a $10,000 account by 1% a day, on day one you make $100. It feels pathetic. It doesn't pay the rent. It doesn't buy the Lambo. You feel like you are wasting your time. But if you sustain that boredom, if you sustain that discipline, the curve goes parabolic. The problem is, you never get to the parabolic phase because you get bored during the flat phase. You blow up the account trying to accelerate the process. You try to hack the timeline. You cannot hack the timeline. You must build a psychological fortress around your boredom. You must reframe it. Boredom is not a lack of action. Boredom is the confirmation that you are disciplined. If you are bored, you are safe. If you are bored, you are not making mistakes. If you are bored, you are preserving your capital for the moment the fat pitch arrives. Think of a sniper. A sniper lies in the mud for 3 days. He does not move. He does not sleep. He urinates in his suit. He waits for one specific target, at one specific wind speed, at one specific distance. If he gets bored and starts shooting at birds just to pass the time, he gives away his position. He dies. You are a capital sniper. Your bullets are limited. Your targets are rare. When you sit at your desk and you feel that itch, that desperation to click a button, you must recognize it for what it is, a biological flaw, a weakness. Turn off the monitor. Walk away. Read a book. Do not pay the energy tax on a C-grade trade just to alleviate your boredom. The studio must remain sterile. It must remain a place of serious business. If you need excitement, go skydiving, go play video games, go fight a bear. But do not bring your need for excitement into the laboratory. The laboratory is for extraction. It is for the cold, unfeeling execution of a statistical edge. We are moving towards the final stage now. You have seen the illusion, you have rebooted the biology, you have molted the ego, you have embraced the boredom. Now we must solidify this into a permanent state. We must turn these separate lessons into a unified architecture. We must move from being a trader to being a system. It is time to build the final architecture. We have arrived at the end, or rather, the beginning of the real work. You have stopped bleeding energy. You have calibrated your biology. You have accepted the pain of the molt. You have learned to sit in the silence without going mad. Now we must pour the concrete. We must build the structure that houses your wealth. Most of you think of trading as a verb. I am trading. It implies active participation. It implies that you are the engine driving the car. This is the final mistake. The professional does not trade. The professional operates a system. You are not the pilot. You are the engineer who designed the plane. Once the plane is in the air, you do not flap your arms to keep it flying. You monitor the gauges. You trust the aerodynamics. This is the final architecture. It is the shift from discretionary chaos to systematic order. In the beginning, you relied on feel. You looked at a chart and said, "It looks like it's going up." That is intuition based on nothing but hope and vapors. It is a house of cards. One gust of wind, one bad earnings report, one geopolitical shock, and it collapses. The architect builds with steel. Your system must be external to you. It must be a set of rules so rigid, so binary, that a child could execute them. If X happens, do Y. If price hits level A, execute action B. There is no maybe. There is no I feel like. There is only syntax. Why? Because you are the weak link, even with the cold showers, even with the meditation, even with the experience. You are still a biological entity. You are prone to fear, greed, and fatigue. You are reliable only 80% of the time. A system is reliable 100% of the time. If your trading strategy requires you to be a genius every day, you will fail. If your trading strategy requires you to have nerves of steel every day, you will fail. You need a strategy that works even when you are sick, even when you are tired, even when you are going through a divorce. You need a strategy that protects you from yourself. Let's look at David one last time. David is no longer the frantic addict we met in part 1. He walks into his office. It is clean, minimal. He sits down. He opens his flight manual, a physical checklist. Is the trend bullish? Check. Is the volume above average? Check. Is the risk to reward ratio 1:3? Check. Is the trade. He sets the stop loss. He sets the take profit. And then, this is the most important part, he walks away. He does not stare at the candles. He does not pray. He knows that the moment he clicks that button, the outcome is out of his hands. It is now a matter of probability. If the trade hits the stop loss, David does not flinch. He records the loss in his spreadsheet. If the trade hits the take profit, David does not cheer. He records the win in his spreadsheet. He is no longer trading the money. He is trading the execution. His pride does not come from the profit. His pride comes from the fact that he followed his rules perfectly. You want to know the difference between a gambler and a professional? A gambler feels good when they win, even if they played poorly. A professional feels good when they followed their plan, even if they lost. This is the architectural shift in identity. You are moving from profit-focused to process-focused. When you focus on the profit, you are emotional. You are attached to the outcome. When you focus on the process, you are stoic. You are attached to the integrity of the system. You are building a machine that prints money. Sometimes the machine jams. Sometimes it needs maintenance. But you do not kick the machine. You do not scream at the machine. You fix it, and you turn it back on. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a get-rich-slowly-and-keep-it-forever scheme. It is dark work. It is lonely work. There are no applause, lights in the laboratory. No one will see the years you spent mastering your own psychology. No one will see the thousands of times you wanted to quit but didn't. They will just see the result. They will look at your life, at your freedom, at your capital, and they will say, "Wow, you got lucky." And you will look at them with the dead, calm eyes of a predator who has molted 1,000 times, and you will simply nod. Sure, I got lucky. Because you know the truth. You know the cost of the shell. You know the weight of the energy tax. You know the silence of the boredom. You built this. Brick by brick. Loss by loss. Now, turn off the video. Turn off the noise. Go to the mirror. Look at the enemy. And begin the boot sequence. The market opens in 10 hours.